Hi, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joe Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Well, this became a three-part series, and this is part 3 now of talking about how to self-parent using personality type. The first episode, we laid down the tracks, principles, and all the things you need to know to be able to apply some of these things to your life. And in the last episode, we talked about 4 of the Jungian cognitive functions, the 4 judging functions: effectiveness, harmony, authenticity, and accuracy. But we didn't get to the perceiving functions because we ran out of time and we didn't want to spend too much time on that episode. So we said, let's do a 3rd episode.
Right.
So here we find ourselves, Antonia.
That's the problem with us being talkers.
Yeah, there you go.
And by us, I mean me.
So I think the best way to start out this is if somebody is still going to go back, because you need to go back and listen to the first episode, but maybe you found yourself here and you're like, well, I don't want to have to stop this and go listen to that first. Can I listen to this and then go back and fill in the gaps?
Yeah.
Let's catch someone up real quick.
Okay, let's do a
quick recap. What do we need to do to catch them up?
Okay, so the first episode, we talked about what self-parenting means, right? So like the qualities and characteristics of what it means to be a parent, why it's important to do so, some of the things that might get in our way of doing self-parenting work. And then in the last episode, the second episode, we talked about what it means to self-parent with the 4 functions you just mentioned, Joel, the 4 judging functions. So introverted thinking accuracy for the ETPs, introverted feeling authenticity for the EFPs, extroverted thinking effectiveness for the ITJs, and extroverted feeling or harmony for the IFJ types. And in this episode, we're going to continue that theme by discussing the perceiving functions. Now, I do want to make a note, and you weren't going to say anything, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because we've gone longer than we anticipated.
Yeah.
But of course, we're recording this. As far as we're concerned, we're recording them all at the same time, but you're watching them weeks apart. And Joel's actually been sick, and he was expecting to record
low energy
one podcast.
It's okay though.
But we have turned this into 3 podcasts, and so I think you've been hanging in there pretty good, despite the fact that you've been sick. But
I think I'm doing fantastic.
It probably didn't even need me to say that. I just want to say, we've been going longer than anticipated. So if you just suddenly drop.
So if I collapse, you can just keep talking. You don't have to even mention it.
I'll just keep talking.
That was Joel. Yeah. Let's get back to the introverted sensing memory now. Yeah.
I'll just talk to Christian, our editor, and just be like, Christian, just don't have the camera on him. We're just going to keep going.
Fair enough.
All right. That way.
I feel very loved. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
No, I say that just so that in case we have to wind down a little bit, we have an out. That said, in this particular episode, we're going to continue with the theme of what it means to self-parent using the perceiving function. So this will be helpful for the IPs and the EJs in the Myers-Briggs system. And just to do a little bit of that recap, we're talking about parenting in terms of showing up for yourself using certain criteria. In the very first episode, we discussed how the reason why parenting matures us so much is it's a project that we can't say no to. I mean, if we at all have any sense of, responsibility at all inside of us, once we have a child, we have to show up for that child, right? There are terrible parents out there, yes, but we're not talking about terrible parents that flee their responsibilities.
Yeah.
We're talking about, parents that feel a sense of responsibility to their children. And so you can say that there are bad parents. That's true. There are parents who kill their children. That's true. We're not talking about that. We're talking about doing responsible, mature inner parenting. So being a parent means that you can't say no to the obligation or to the commitment you've made. It means you have to show up to the best of your ability, even though it feels outside of your capacity to do so. I don't think anybody is not at least on some level overwhelmed by being a parent, particularly when it's new. It means having some stake in all of this, right? Like you've got some skin in the game because this is going to be a reflection of who you are. And so a part of your ego is in this, involved in all of this. And so it's a project that is also creative. And also it's something that requires you to show up and stretch yourself, do things outside of your comfort zone. So that's what we're talking about when we say parent. And parental energy that is applied to other people, if it's only exclusively applied to other people and not to the self, it means that you're doing all of those things in behalf of others. You're committing to others. You're showing up for them. You're giving them, maybe even more than they asked for. You're stretching yourself and you feel a sense of responsibility to all of this. You feel some skin in the game. But if you're not doing that for yourself, if you're hoping somebody else does that for you in your behalf, well, then you're always going to find yourself giving and never resourcing yourself. So inner parenting isn't just showing up responsible, although that is an important component to it, but it's also making sure that you have everything you need to, to show up for the world, to be fit for life.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about developing the co-pilot as a part of this inner parenting concept, what we're really saying is show up for yourself, right? Show up for yourself and don't expect other people to show up in this way. Stop outsourcing it. Stop handing this over to others, because that's a recipe for feeling like the world is always unfair, because nobody's really going to show up for you that way. And if they do, that's actually an inappropriate relationship. You will feel the full effect of not being a responsible adult if somebody else is constantly saving you. So it will take away some of your sense of self-efficacy, sense of self-confidence, that feeling like you're ready for the world will be removed if somebody does come save you.
Yeah. Two other things. We talked about the phases of parental energy or parenting children in a real way. And this is just our internal metric or model that we use. It's not, use this loosely, but we talked about the 3 phases of parenting: the protection time period of parenting, where you're protecting a small child from getting harmed, whether it's emotional, physical, or psychological or spiritual. Then we talked about the preparation time period of parenting, usually in the teenage years, when you're trying to prepare your child for the real world. You're training them on, the basic necessities of life. How do you engage socially? How do you do things for yourself? How do you equip yourself to be ready? And then we talked about the 3rd phase, which is promotion, like helping your child get into the good college or get a first job or get set up in their first apartment, and then helping them identify and go for opportunities in their life, almost like a coach, a cheerleader of sorts. When they enter their 20s and they enter adulthood, you're cheering them on and helping promote them as a parent. So those are the 3 general areas that we see as parental energies in a life cycle of being a real parent. And you could look at yourself in a very similar way. The second thing I want to mention is we mention this every episode. We're using the CAR model of personality that we developed here at Personality Hacker, which talks about your personality. The 4-letter code talks about the cognitive functions of your mind, the way you learn information or perceive your world, and the way you make decisions or make judgments or decisions on that criteria that you perceived. And we use this CAR model to look at a driver, a co-pilot, a 10-year-old, and a 3-year-old in this car of your cognition, your life. As you drive through life, these are the parts of you that influence your behavior, your decisions, what you attune to, all of that. That comes from our owner's manuals. We've got 16 different owner's manuals, one for every single personality type, all 16 types. I recommend getting and it's not an actual physical book manual. It's actually a mini course, like 5 modules right now at the time of this recording.
Mini. It's a maxi course.
It's what I mean is it's like it doesn't go on for months.
Right.
It's something you can do on your own time, but it's a course you go through. It has some written and video elements, some audio, and some written elements, but it's multimedia. It's not just one thing.
Right.
We call it an owner's manual because it's like the instruction book for your personality of how you're wired. It's very powerful. You can find the CAR model for your type on our website somewhere, but it definitely comes inside of that owner's manual. And I think it's a great investment for you. If you want to apply some of these things in a real way, you get that, you follow along with what we're talking about on the last episode and this episode, you're going to be able to apply these things in a very tangible framework for yourself. So again, I recommend going and getting an owner's manual for your personality type, but at least have your CAR model in front of you, like the diagram of what that looks like. As we talk about that co-pilot, I think it's going to be very important you know where that falls in your personality and how you're wired.
Yeah. So we laid the tracks in episode 2, where we discussed that we weren't just talking about these 4 functions in the CAR model outside of, we are talking about them, but we're talking about them inside of Dr. John Beebe's archetype model.
That's right.
So we're overlaying the archetypes of particularly parent and eternal child. So we're honing in and zooming in on the co-pilot function, the auxiliary function, and that it is associated with parental energy, because we're using that as an access point to self-parenting, because we tend to, when we call upon that function or pull it up, it's usually in reaction or response to other people needing us to show up for them, or asking advice, or coming to us with a problem, or just kind of maybe clearly needing some assistance. That's when that part of ourselves tends to get triggered. So we are encouraging every person to not just have the parental energy associated with their co-pilot or auxiliary function to be triggered for others, but to bring that in-house, to use good, healthy parenting for the self, particularly associated with that function.
Yeah. I think that was a pretty good summary.
Okay.
A pretty good wrap up. Now you're going to get way more if you go back and listen to episode 1 and 2 of this series.
Right.
because we went into much more depth.
Yep.
But that's a good starting place for somebody that is following along today. So let's just pick a function and let's start with intuition.
Okay.
Let's start with perspectives, introverted intuition. And this is going to be the co-pilot of all ENJs in the Myers-Briggs system. So ENFJs and ENTJs will both use perspectives or introverted intuition as their co-pilot auxiliary parental energy.
Right. All right. So what is introverted intuition? Well, if you look at it in terms of sort of its nucleus, this is a function that takes a meta perspective on things. It understands meaning. It is attempting to see a pattern. It's the function that helps us see the forest, not just individual trees. And it's looking for a through line of meaning. It's trying to figure out sort of like what's tying everything together. And so it tends to look far into the future to run simulations into what is probably going to happen. But it also sees things like what we're talking about right now, which is archetypes. What are sort of the common meanings that we share? And what are some of the probabilities? Like how is life most likely going to sort of roll out if we can establish some of these patterns, if we can establish some of these meanings? Well, then what is the implication of that? What is the simulation we can run into the future?
And it can also basically ask, could I see this from a different perspective? If this is difficult to see it this way or painful, what if I just looked at it a little bit differently? Could I see that from a different perspective and have a different result or a different outcome or a different view of it at least?
Right. Yeah. Reframing, right?
Yes.
Like how can I reframe this? How can I see it in a different way in order to get a better meaning from it, in order to get better information and content? And so, of course, the function, even though it's introverted, we've already laid the tracks for how an introverted function can be parental for others, which is that it can show up with modeling or it can show up with insights. And I would say the insights are very much tied to this function. So when it's being used parentally, I tease ENJ types that when somebody comes to them and says, I don't really have a plan for my life, that's all the ENJ needs to hear. And they can sit down with the person and build out, like tell them all of the things about them that are helpful and useful and create a plan and a vision for their life well into the future. But it's harder to do that for the self. Now, there are major advantages to being able to run simulations into the future, see most likely outcomes, to be able to source where that person fits. If you can see sort of their archetypal energy, you can kind of understand where they fit in the, so the maybe the ecosystem of people or where they would fit in an institution. And you could say, I think you would be really talented at this thing, or I think this would really suit you. Because they're patterning how sort of the energy of the person and where they would fit in, sort of a broader context. And then they can help that person, see into the future and build a life for themselves, like sort of using this as a guide, using these insights as a guide. Sometimes they can also help other people just interpret mysteries. Like they might have something that's significant and personal to themselves, but not know how to interpret it, maybe dream interpretation, or helping that person call on their own intuition to have answers to things that don't necessarily have enough content right now. There's a lot of times that we need to have answers when we don't have sufficient information. And that's where our intuition really needs to kick on. And so they can help other people pull up intuition for themselves to have answers or understand meanings to things that maybe they just don't have sufficient information for at the time, but they still have to make choices. And so this is one of the ways that it can show up parentally for other people, is in assisting them with this, to see outside the box, to see other potentials and other ways that things can be observed, or not even observed, but can be patterned. When you do this with an actual child, what you're doing is you're helping them to see outside of just their moment-to-moment experience. It's a way of helping children understand consequences and implications to their actions, to see a little bit into the future and not to just take what they want right now, but to understand if they take that thing, well, maybe they're taking it from somebody else and now they're going to have consequences to that action. And so you can see this showing up parentally by communicating what is the longer timeline on this? How will this roll out? If you take this action now, what is it going to look like 10 steps from now? And so communicating that to children and communicating implication and communicating the value of insight and to see what can't be seen yet. There's a lot of ways that parental energy is very helpful.
If we talk about self-parenting, we had this experience with an ENFJ friend of ours in just the last few days. They came to our house and they were talking about, their friends and their experience, and they were forecasting into the future and talking about the perspectives of why certain things happened and the meaning and all of this. And it just so happened that as we're hanging out, the opportunity for this person, this ENFJ, to get a tattoo became available to them. And that little eternal child part of them, the extroverted sensing or sensation part, went, oh, cool. I have an opportunity right now to get a free tattoo from a tattoo artist that was in our world at the same time. Like, not really thought about it, not really prepared for it, just went, sat down and got a tattoo on their back shoulder within like 20 minutes of knowing this was available. And I kept thinking to myself, like, did you run this into the future? Are you sure you want that? Did you think about that? You were very thoughtful and mindful about all these other personal growth things, but you acted so quickly there. Are you going to regret that later? Like, that was really interesting how your responsiveness, like you reacted, you responded, and you just did this without what I would consider thinking deeply about the implications of it. I still don't have a tattoo because I'm like, oh, I can't commit that long term. So it was interesting to see that eternal child come up for this ENFJ. And what I would perceive as the parent function of introverted intuition or perspectives didn't really show up in that moment. Now, I don't think it's that big of a deal. The stakes are so low. It's a tattoo on the body, and this person already had a few of them already. So I think they've already done some of this thinking. But that's an example, I think, a tangible example of how maybe if you're an ENJ listening, right, ENFJ or ENTJ, there might be moments in your life when you have acted impulsively, quote unquote, and you wish this parental energy had been there in a more accessible way for you, just to slow it down and ask the question, like, is this actually going to play out well for me? Is this something I really want to commit to? Is this something that is going to serve me? And is this the right way to see it? And is this the meaning I want to apply towards something?
Yeah. I wish somebody had warned me.
Yeah, I'm sure you have some example of that in your life as you listen. I mean, that's just a dumb example from a friend of ours, but I think this happens a lot for ENJs, right? They sometimes act quickly because it's available to them. That eternal child wants to just get into action and feel the experience right now. But that perspectives part's going to throttle and make sure that it's the right choice for you on the long-term timeline.
Right. So there's ways that that the function itself can not only not show up at all, but also show up a little inappropriately by reframing things that need to be accepted as they are. So sometimes introverted intuition or perspectives gets a little precocious. Sometimes it doesn't take actions that it needs to take in the moment because it's seeing too long of a timeline. Sometimes it's overly cautious, right? It can get some tunnel vision. Sometimes it can't see outside of the pattern that it's already created for itself. And so there are ways that this function can also show up not well, whether it's in parenting others or parenting the self. So you have to make sure that it's healthy, that it's not getting tunnel vision, that it's not over patterning, that it's not finding meaning in things that really should be taken at face value. But it also needs to show up, like you're talking about, in those kinds of moments. It needs to make sure that it has its presence shown, not just for others, but also for the self. So when you look at things in terms of how can an ENJ self-parent with this function? Well, do you have a plan? Do you have a timeline and a plan for yourself? Are you taking sufficient time to understand who you are in sort of the ecosystem? Are you recognizing what your archetypes are, your archetypal energies, or the patterns that are coming up for you, like where you fit in everything? Are you seeing the implications of your life? Are you running these simulations into the future and making sure that the choices you're making are in alignment with you, that they're right for you, as you can see, a longer timeline? Are you taking time to have insights for the self, not just acting impulsively, not just staying busy, which is what ENJs can do. If they're avoiding this part of themselves, they just stay in action and stay busy. But is the thing you're doing, is it going down the right trajectory, right? Like, have you run the simulation all the way to its conclusion? And is this where you want to end up?
Yeah.
And so when an ENJ self-parents with this, what they do is they find themselves on the right path, right? They have direction, they have insight, they recognize where they fit in all of this, which is really important because sometimes EJs kind of struggle to feel like they've really figured themselves out, that they really know themselves. Sometimes they feel like they're sort of getting lost in everything, lost in their day-to-day life, lost in the busyness of everything, lost in their ambitions or pursuits, sort of lost in their relationships. And this is the part of themselves that helps reclaim some of that territory and go, well, Am I doing things that are right for me? Am I doing things well? The function itself won't tell you whether or not it's right for you, but it will tell you the conclusion of the matter.
Yeah.
It will run the simulation into the future to give you the important patterned information that says, okay, when I get to that outcome, I can kick it back to some of my judging functions and go, this is right or wrong decision for me.
Yeah. And I think another easy access point would be, as an ENJ, you're probably very attuned to the external archetypes and symbols in the world, and you make meaning of them. So you see symbology and archetypes out there. Are you curating and managing your own personal symbols and archetypes for yourself? Like, do you have personal symbols that represent something to you? Do you have symbology and archetypes that you're tuned into that have personal meaning to you, and using those as guidance systems, parental systems for the rest of you to fall in line behind, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, our friend might have had an archetype of, maybe I'm the methodical shepherd archetype, for example, a personal archetype. I'm just literally making one up. And then an opportunity for a tattoo comes up, and the person would tune in and go, well, the archetype I lean myself towards is the careful shepherd. So does this align? Does the symbol I'm ready to put on I'm curating a symbol. Like, this symbol means something. It was a band they liked, right? And they got tattooed on their back. Well, what am I saying about myself when I tattoo the symbol? Is this the symbol that I want to curate and manage and mark on my body forever that lines up? And I'm not saying this is this person's archetype, but with my personal archetypes or the symbols that I choose for my life. So actually, I think the tattoos are actually a beautiful example of this, because I didn't even think about how much symbology is represented in tattoos. Mm-hmm. It's permanent and you're committing to it. So what happens if you see a different perspective, or you aren't really paying attention to the archetypes or symbols that you're curating? You could do a better job at that, most likely, if you're an ENJ.
Right. Well, and we didn't really ask him, but maybe he had been thinking about this symbol for a long time.
Sure.
Maybe there was a moment when the opportunity struck so that he could put the symbol that he had been wanting,
of course,
to put on his body.
And I'm not being critical or judgmental of his choices. I'm using illustratively to say, these are some things that my suspicion is he does have archetypes that drive him, that he tunes to. He does have symbology he's curating.
Yep.
And he is self-parenting. I'm not making a judgment he's not. But if he's not, that would be something that would be impulsive and not thoughtful.
Right. Yeah. So it would depend on whether or not this was a well thought out piece of symbology.
Yeah.
And so symbols help us understand ourselves. They give us meaning. They give us guidance. They help direct our lives. They help us understand when we need to have healthier symbols or archetypal energies that we're attuned to. It's actually, in some ways, it's a form of spirituality.
Yeah.
And so when ENJs self-parent with this function, they tune into that. They tune into that sense of the bigger picture for themselves. And then taking the three different styles of parenting, the protection, preparation, and promotion, if they are overly protective with themselves, then that means that they're going to get even more tunnel vision, right? But they need to also be protective. They need to not hand themselves over to just anybody's thinking. They need to make sure that they're vetting their own paradigms for themselves. It's part of what introverted intuition can do, is help you see a perspective outside of the one that's being presented to you. So on one side, being protective with this function means not just buying everybody else's frame, like making sure that you're seeing things from your own frame, seeing things from your own, giving yourself permission to shift, not just the perspectives that you're supposed to be shifting into, but the ones outside of that. It's like maybe even getting inside the minds of people who are considered dangerous, or getting inside the minds of concepts that are, might have value, but maybe you've been told not to. So protecting the self means not just buying other people's frames, but preparing the self means also building the skills and and taking the angles that you'll need to in order to be ready and fit for life. So when you run these simulations and you see this direction, who are you going to have to be? What are the skills you're going to have in order to meet, to meet yourself into the future at that simulation you're running? Does that make sense? It's like, if I want to get there, this is what I'm going to have to do to get there. So are you preparing yourself also for that? And then preparing yourself in an archetypal way too. Am I becoming the kind of person that aligns with certain archetypal energies that help me understand a bigger picture? And then as far as promotion goes, am I also sharing these insights with others? Do I have the courage to share how I'm thinking outside the box, and seeing things in a very different way that people might judge, but also has great deep insight that will put me in the path of opportunities. So it's making sure you're not overly protective and getting tunnel vision, but it also makes sure that you're protecting yourself enough, and it makes sure that you're preparing yourself enough and promoting yourself enough. So again, it's are you bringing this concept of a good parent and discipline, right? Discipline would also come in here, meaning that you don't just jump at any opportunity. You're not impulsive. You slow things down. Like take the time to tune into that intuitive energy, which takes a while sometimes, right? Intuition, particularly introverted intuition or perspectives, is not exactly speedy. So are you giving yourself the discipline to slow down enough to tune into that insight, which sometimes doesn't hit you immediately. Sometimes it takes a while for it to emerge. And so, and then using that to guide your path. And are you doing good self-parenting with it?
Yeah. So let's talk about ESJs. So these are ESTJs and ESFJs in the Myers-Briggs system. Both of them are going to use a co-pilot or parental energy of introverted sensing, or what we've called memory. This is the auxiliary position to the co-pilot position. Again, this is tuned outwardly, kind of in a general way. What are the qualities of introverted sensing or memory? How do we talk about this?
So the nucleus of this function is to make sure that we're going from just simply surviving to thriving. It's focused in on safety and security and making sure that we have sort of an equilibrium in life, that we're doing the things that we should be doing in order to be interoperable with each other, to not change things too quickly, to make sure that all of the valuable wisdom that we called from the past gets brought forward into the current timeline and then passed into the future. Like it's a function that's keeping its finger on the pulse of what we have already established to be good protocols. And so it's about, it tunes into culture, it tunes into family, it tunes into anything that should be passed along.
Constancy is the word that comes to mind. I think that's really the key word here. Doesn't mean things can't change, just it is trying to manage and track what is consistent and then notice the differences that aren't. So it can, again, on a long timeline, be able to have constancy. Going forward.
Well, and I think it's probably easiest to see how this function shows up parentally, because I think it's a very useful one when actually parenting.
Yeah.
Like what are the experiences children need in order to be healthy adults, right? How do we protect our children and prepare them? How do we make sure that they're going to be okay? If it's tuned into safety, if it's tuned into constancy, if it's tuned into like the healthy routines and rituals that we have, I mean, children thrive on those things. They thrive on constancy. They thrive in a schedule and a routine. Like children are, they're designed to respond to this very well. And so it's actually very easy to see how this function is parental. Now, for every type, we have a tendency to use this parentally for other people. So if you actually have children and you have you have ESJ preferences, you probably see this show up all the time. Right? It's like, did you get your homework done? Are you setting good habits? How are you creating good experiences for your kids so that they'll be, well-rounded children? And what are the things that you're allowing them to do, but not allowing them to do? You're probably seeing this show up all the time. And you're probably seeing this show up when other people trigger it that are adults. If you don't have children, but you have ESJ preferences, you probably see this also show up when people ask you for advice or are seeking mentorship from you. You're looking for areas of constancy, areas where they can have better routines and habits, areas where they can show up a little bit more responsibly and, do their duty. So this is one that is a little easier to observe even when it comes to other people seeking advice.
Yeah.
Now,
it could also, I was just going to add too, it can also show up to going and seeking the source material or stability of something. Like, I don't know what to do here. Well, let's go look and see what people have done before. Let's go look and see what do we already know about the subject. Let's tune into what's already been done or written about this, and let's start there. I see a lot of ESJ types doing that for me in my life. They'll be like, well, let's go and, sometimes I'm frustrated by it. I'm like, I don't want to start with what's been. I want to pretend like nothing's been done already. But there's wisdom in that. There's parental energy wisdom in going and saying, don't reinvent the wheel. Let's look and see what's come before and let's tune to that. There's wisdom to that we can build off of. It's a substrate to start from.
Right. It's like borrowed wisdom.
Yeah.
And the function is really about processing experiences. That's what it fundamentally is. And when we process as an experience, we have now an example to share. I've known a lot of ESJs that are very good at sharing stories or sharing examples, real world examples of things to help people understand things better, telling their own story or telling a story that got passed to them to help people connect why this is an important thing to preserve, right? It's like the function at its core understands what needs to be preserved and what it's okay to change. Now, even though that's the easiest to see played out in a parental way, it's also easiest to see when it plays out in an unhealthy parental way, as in overly protective. Don't do that. Don't try anything new. Don't seek out new experiences or opportunities. Like just stay in the safe zone. Just follow the template. Let's get you good grades. Let's get you a good college. Let's get you a good profession, and that's all you need, right? And that's and don't stray off of that. And so when there are people who need to stray off of it because of maybe the template isn't designed for them, or they're very unhappy in the template, an overly protective introverted sensing or memory parental use would be like, no, you're not allowed to stray. And so this is a function that does lend more towards protection than preparation. And that's one of its challenges. Now, if it goes into an understanding of preparation, then it will recognize the importance of having all of these varied experiences. And you can see this. There are some ESJ parents that are like when their kids get rebellious, they don't lock down overly, or they don't freak out about it because they get like, yeah, I mean, you're a teenager. You need to go through a rebellious time period. This is actually healthy. So they recognize that that behavior out of their control isn't necessarily a disaster. They recognize that there are certain milestones that children have to go through in order to, to become healthy, in order to have the experiences they need to, to learn the right lessons. And introverted sensing or memories, one of its superpowers when it really disciplines itself is recognizing what are the right lessons people need to learn, right? What should I not be stamping down on? What should I be opening myself up to? Because this is something a person needs to do. Now, that same applies to self-parenting. So if you can lock into the healthy version of introverted sensing or memory as a parent, which is not overly protective enough, but not overly protective. And then also promotional, right? Here are opportunities. Here are things I've seen this before. If you go for this, this is the good thing that will happen from it. If they have a balanced, healthy relationship to the concept of parenting by itself, now instead of just doing it for others, they do it for themselves. And this looks like being more routinized in your life. It looks like kind of getting your stuff together. It means becoming more responsible and thinking about things more in terms of, what will give me a constancy in my life? What will set me up for success? What are the actions I need to take? As opposed to just, because in all EJ types, if they hand too much over to their eternal child energy, and in this case, it would be extroverted intuition or exploration, sometimes they can get a little too sort of childlike. They can get a little immature. They can just go for new experiences or have an ideal around something or have a fantasy around something that they're trying to live out. They can get a little sort of caught up in the moment and not think about how this is going to impact maybe a bigger timeline. They can get impulsive as well.
Yeah. Like,
I'm unhappy here, so I'm just going to quit. Or, I want this, so I'm going to overspend. There can be a sense of like an irresponsibility that comes along with that.
Yeah, I think for ESJs in particular, it naturally instinct because of that eternal child, starting projects and doing things initially is really easy to do. And if a ESJ is parenting in a real way externally, whether it's real children or just people in their life, a lot of EJ mature parent wisdom is finish strong. Like, don't stop until you're complete with this. Stay the course. You do a little bit every day until you get it done, just on a nice timeline or pace. Mm-hmm. I think that's the wisdom that ESJs have brought to me. And yet in their own life, sometimes they forget to turn that same energy toward themselves. They're good at starting a lot of things, getting things going, getting excited in the initial stages, and then forgetting to apply that same advice they'd give to somebody else to themselves to go, wait a minute, I got to stay on the slow and steady pace to finish strong.
Right.
Close the loop. Finish this. Don't just abandon ship before it's complete. And I think wise ESJs get there. I think they do turn that onto themselves, and they are able to actually stick with something and finish it.
Yeah. Or skipping steps would be another version of that. Like just recognizing that you can't skip steps in the same way that you have to kind of go through the rebellious teenager time period. Otherwise you've skipped a step that's going to haunt you later.
Yes.
In your life, you can't skip steps. Like you have to sort of slowly build towards something. Oftentimes an introverted sensing or memory watches that progression happen. It watches a slow build. And then I think it's also doing it in your own best interest, not just doing it for others, right? Like you might have some sense of constancy, but it might just be to serve other people. Do it to serve yourself. Do it because it is in your own best interest, because you are happier when you buckle down and have a routine and have good, healthy habits. I would actually say that a lack of introverted sensing or memory parental energy is literally what killed my sister. She had ESFJ preferences, and she was not good at taking. She was very epileptic. Had one of the worst cases of it. She was not good at taking her medication on a regular basis. And not that I would blame her at all. She did not intend to die from an epileptic seizure. None of that was her intention. It was a horrible situation that I certainly would not blame her for. But I would say that her sort of getting sloppy about when she took her medication, like, oh, I missed today, I'm going to double up tomorrow. I missed whatever. I'm going to, it's like, it was sort of this, she hadn't disciplined herself, even though she was in a situation where she really needed to.
Yeah.
But I think she didn't take it as seriously. She didn't understand that this was something that could be deadly, even though they had, doctors had communicated that this is a pretty serious situation. And so there was a lack of self-parental energy with her introverted sensing or memory, even though for her own child, she was very routinized for him.
Yes.
Like she made sure that he had all the experiences he needed to have. She was very, she just showed up for him.
I bet he took his medication on timelines.
Right. It's like she made sure she had everything buttoned up for him, but she wasn't doing it for herself.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that's the most extreme example I can think of. But it's like on some level, what are you allowing yourself to be sloppy for the self that isn't serving you? And how can, like maybe it's getting to the gym on a regular basis. Maybe it's like eating a healthy diet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting enough sleep, or just taking care of your body. Maybe it's drinking enough water, or maybe it's, getting giving alone time. Maybe you just do not give yourself enough alone time to process your own experiences and get the wisdom from that. Maybe you need to give yourself more alone time to really be with your own thoughts. Journal about what is going on for you. Really understand what's happening in your world as you're processing your experiences and getting the wisdom from that. So self-parenting with this function means, in the same way as ENJs, it means slowing down, getting inside yourself, doing what is healthy for you, that's sustainable.
So let's talk about the next perceiving function. Let's talk about intuition, extroverted intuition or exploration. This is used by all INP types. So INTPs and INFPs are going to have this as their co-pilot. This is a fun process. This is perceiving, and it's very fun. It's about external pattern recognition. It's about connecting disparate things and seeing what's possible comes from them. What if I combine this with this? What would happen? What if it would have to start from here? It's speculative. It's in the outer world. It likes to play with concepts, and it likes to disrupt what has been. Right? It loves to disrupt what has been. So I think this is it can be a very playful, expansive function, and it can be really carbonated when you're using this in a parental role. If you're helping other people find the joie de vivre of life, or the possibilities, or brainstorming with others and coming up with cool ideas on what could you do with your life? What could you do? If you're a real parent, you're probably tuning to your kids and you're creating little mini adventures for them, or maybe even big adventures for them, and helping them see all the different connections in the outer world of what's possible for their lives, things maybe they've never really thought about or explored before, the things behind the curtain.
Yeah.
This is how I think a parent can show up. I think it'd be a very fun parental energy to have.
Yeah. It's less obvious how it's parental than, say, it's opposite of introverted sensing or memory.
True that.
But the nucleus of the function is possibilities, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's an effervescence for the future. It's a recognition that things can change at any time. So don't get too stuck. And it's willing to see outside the box. It's willing to play with something that may not be realistic or have practical application in the moment. It's still willing to play with these ideas, like you said, brainstorm and have new experiences. Now, so does extroverted sensing or sensation, which we'll talk about in a moment. But these new experiences are for a different reason. Like the novelty is to understand on a cerebral level a bigger world and how everything connects. So it is a little bit bouncier. It is a little bit more fun and disruptive. And so it feels sometimes irresponsible. And unfortunately, INP types get the message that they're not supposed to be in this function because to the outside world, it doesn't look responsible at all. I've had INPs tell me that they don't like this part because it feels dangerous. Like it feels dangerous to them to call on this part of who they are. So if you had a parent that you believed was dangerous, you certainly wouldn't go to them ever. You wouldn't, call on them to help you out.
Dangerous, not unpredictable, but dangerous is the word you've heard used.
I have somebody who has INFP preferences that said that this part of them feels dangerous. And it's in part because sometimes they have had experiences where they followed its intuition and it didn't turn out exactly the way their eternal child wanted it to turn out.
Yeah.
Meaning that the eternal child for an INP is introverted sensing or memory, which is predictable, safe, like things are like they happen exactly just so. And extroverted intuition or or exploration doesn't always end up just so. In fact, it doesn't care about that at all. So it has a tendency to kind of avoid the just so. It kind of goes around and looks for new and different possibilities. Okay, so when it's done well as a parent, like you mentioned, it's showing what is possible. It's giving people an optimism for the future, as opposed to going, oh man, the world is just really sinking. It's just really, collapsing in on itself. I have INP friends that are eternally optimistic about where we're headed, right? Like, yeah, but they're like, yeah, you're right. Society is kind of a mess, but think about all the technologies that are coming down the pike. And then they'll tell me about all these different technologies that are kind of amazing. Yeah. I mean, all the technologies around aging right now are kind of blowing my mind.
Yes.
Like how much age reversal is happening right now. What's possible for like life extension. If you really understand what's happening in the AI world, it can be a little ominous, but it can also be incredibly optimistic. Different technologies like cryptocurrency and what that could mean. So there's a lot of optimism about what's happening. And if you're not so safety conscious, if you're willing to just sort of throw yourself into a possibility and then take it all the way, there are some really lovely things that can come from that in a parental energy. Now, if you're just using it for others, if you have INP preferences and somebody comes up and is like, oh, I just think the world is just, it's all doom and gloom and it's just gonna fall into one big, sinkhole and then that's it. INPs almost always immediately have their intuition trigger and go, no, it's not. And then they'll tell them all these wonderful things that could be coming down the pike. All of these wonderful possibilities in that person's life. And have you thought about this? And have you thought about this? And they'll get to brainstorming all these great things, but they don't necessarily do it for themselves. Now, it can also be bad parental energy if it doesn't require any discipline of thought. If it's just possibility thinking and it's just, if it's all throwing spaghetti against the wall, without any discipline to narrow things down to the best ones and then follow through and then take action on them. If it's just constant ideation and not actually pulling the trigger and getting to action and doing something, that's poor parental energy with the function.
Yeah.
And it can get overly preparation oriented as opposed to protective. It tends to not be very protective at all, but it can get protective. It can get protective of its right to not have to do things the way that everybody else does them. It can get protective in its right to be rebellious.
Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily good either.
I think promotion energy, though, is where it really loves to latch onto. Mm-hmm. Like just even if it's inappropriate to promote, let's just promote this. Let's go. Right. That kind of energy, I think, is where it tends to find itself.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it can promote, like you said, inappropriately in the sense that it will sell somebody on an idea. And then the person gets excited and goes, yeah, let's go do it. And then the person using extroverted intuition or exploration splits. They go, no, that was just an idea, and they're out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. That probably is its It's failing is overly promotional.
And then I've had this reflected back to me as an ENFP using extroverted intuition or exploration. Like Jonathan, ENFJ preferences on our team was like, Joel, when we're at a live event and you're like, we could put the mics over here and we could put the cameras over here and we could put the lights over here. He's like, I'm interpreting those as commands and you're just ideating. You're just throwing ideas out. But I think you're like telling us what we should do, but you're just giving us like possibilities. If you take that to the co-pilot, I bet this happens a lot for INPs in that exact example you're talking about, getting somebody excited that, oh, here's a possibility. We could do this. For the INP, it's just an idea. They're just casting an idea out. But because it comes with parental energy, other people might see that as, oh, that's what we're doing. I got it. You're going to parentally guide us toward the thing you just said. I'm going to surrender to your parental energy. Let's go. I can appreciate that. Let's go. Help lead me there. And the INP goes, wait a minute. No, that wasn't what I signed up for. I wasn't trying to take on responsibility for that. Mm-hmm. So if we look at it as an access point for INPs, it's being responsible to the ideas that this part of you puts forward, mm-hmm. right? It's training yourself to be judicious. If you're not going to take responsibility for it internally, then be very mindful of how you communicate it to the outer world or even yourself.
Yes, I would say that is exactly how it needs to be self-parented.
Yes.
Is by recognizing that that the ideas you put forth, you don't have to commit to all of them, but you have to make that clear to the outside world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people are going to feel that energy from you. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, even your own personality will feel that energy. Like your parts of you will hear yourself say, this is an idea. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like an inner conflict can happen now. Wait, I thought you said we're doing this, right? From the self to the self.
Yeah.
And it's like a responsibility of if I'm going to actually say this as a parental energy that we're going to do this thing and this is the idea we're going to go for, this is the one we're doing, not this one over here. This was just a throwaway idea. This one's real. And now we're on track. So let's all support this. So getting really clear for which part of like all the other parts of yourself, where they should follow, what energy they should follow.
Absolutely. And the protection element comes into protecting others and yourself from an overly idealistic projection, mm-hmm. right? Like what you just talked about. It's like, be clear and use this function enough in your own behalf. When you're self-parenting with it, that's part of like, we get discreet as parents. We start to understand the tool how we're showing up, the style of parenting we're showing up with. We get better at showing up in that way. And so when you're self-parenting with extroverted intuition or exploration, it's being willing to act on the possibilities that you have put in front of yourself and follow them to their conclusion to understand how it rolls out, but not be overly idealistic, so that if it doesn't roll out exactly the way that you pictured it in your head or what you were hoping for, it's okay, right? It's like, children are idealistic, adults are not, right? Or at least that's part of growing up, is like losing some of your fantasy, losing some of that fantastical nature or idealism about how things happen. And so when you're doing it for yourself, you have a sobriety about your possibilities, but you're still willing to do it, right? You're still willing to take the risk. You're not Don Quixote. You're not tilting at windmills, but you are somebody who's willing to take on something that might be bigger than you think you can handle right now, but you're up for the task, right? That's what parenting is. It's committing. We talked about that before. It's being willing to take on a commitment that feels a little outside of your wheelhouse and that you'll have to build skill to really do well. And then, but not running at the first opportunity, but staying with it. And so when INPs do that, it gives them a sense of sort of purpose. It gives them a bounce in their step. It gives them like a bigger thing they're going for, but they have to implement. It can't just be idealistic. It can't just be in their heads. Yeah. No parent will let their kids stay in a fantasy land. Right. And so parental energy for extroverted intuition or exploration is actually getting out of the fantastical element of intuition and into the practical elements of how intuition can beautify your life and have you go for bigger things and reach for the stars.
So let's talk about extroverted sensation. This is used by all ISP types, ISTPs and ISFPs. And this is an extroverted sensing function. We call it sensation. It's about the here and now, the present moment, right? And what is actually happening, not from all the different perspectives I could see this from, but what is happening from my single perspective of what I'm experiencing in the eternal now, right here. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not in the other room, but in this moment. So it's going to be tuned into things like my senses, my 5 senses, but also other senses like balance and internal senses, these kinds of things. It's tuned into the sensing world at all moments. And it's tuned into the presence of those senses, right? It's not trying to pattern what's happening in a meta way, but it's trying to be experiential in what's happening in a practical, direct way.
Right.
So let's talk about this as a parental energy, a co-pilot.
Right.
How does this look? What's the qualities of this as a parental energy?
So the nucleus of extroverted sensing or sensation is, you use the word experience or experiential, and that's its nucleus. It's having an experience. And what's beautiful about this function is that it reminds us of the point of living at all is to be present, is to have experiences.
Yeah.
And there's different ways it can do that. It can either do it through a feeling of max aliveness and through adrenaline and through high impact or peak experiences, but it can also do it through a more gentle approach of just being present, just understanding the flow of life and being a part of it and just enjoying moment to moment, everything that, like the banquet that is what's happening for you right now. And so as a parental function, it is transferring that importance of presence to others. Now, when it's a parent to children, the healthiest way is that it teaches children to not be too in their heads or not be too caught up in overthinking, not be too caught up in like all the anxieties of life, but to enjoy your life, to enjoy what's happening in front of you, but also to take it seriously, like, and to, to show up for whatever you're doing, do well, right? Like if you're in a sport, play that sport well, be competitive, try your hardest. If you're in school, like study hard, like get good, it can focus on things like, really paying attention and being present to what you're hearing from a teacher. It can be present in learning kinesthetically. It can be present in your relationships and being really with the person and tuning into them and really sort of appreciating the moment of the people in your life. So it's linked to, I think when this function is at its healthiest, it's linked to appreciation.
Yeah.
Appreciation for what is happening right now.
I think this energy also is a really interesting access point for authority in our lives as well. So Chuck Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club, wrote a book, Consider This, I think it's the name of the title, where he has this thing, his writing teacher told him that when you're writing a scene, action carries its own authority, right? So if you write an action scene, well, the action a character took is the authority for that action because they took it. So, right, like I could do something like I could go tip over the camera that's filming this right now. It's like, was I allowed to do that? Well, I did it. So that was the authority. Like maybe I didn't have permission.
Yeah.
Right? Like I wasn't allowed to do that permissively, but I had the authority for it because I had the ability to do it. Yep. So it's this idea that an action creates its own authority.
Right.
I think extroverted sensing or sensation understands this in that if you want to do something in the world, just directly do it. And it's like, can you? It's like, well, I just did. Like, while you're still busy asking yourself if it's possible, if you have permission for it, if you want to, I just, with this energy, I just went and did the thing. And it's done now. I just took direct action. So I think it's an opening for authority and more direct action in our life that this can provide for all of us. I think when I see an extroverted sensing or sensation user, ISP, use this, often they're bringing direct action into my life and they're helping me see, oh, you mean I don't have to walk all the way around this? I can just walk over this straight to the thing and go there? Oh, okay. Well, am I allowed to do that? I don't know. I'm doing it now. I guess right. I can.
Yep.
I think that energy is really powerful in self-parenting or outwardly parenting or self-parenting.
Absolutely.
What an amazing ability this gives us.
Yep, absolutely. And so now it can be used, like you can do poor parenting with it.
Of course.
Part of poor parenting is being self-indulgent, is taking actions that have long-range implications. Impulsive
actions that you gave yourself authority for that aren't really healthy for you, right? Or that's bad use of it.
Overly indulgent in substance, or sort of basically doing and taking what you want.
Yeah.
So all of the functions can parent poorly. And we've seen permissive parenting, like extroverted sensing or sensation being an overly permissive parent, or wanting their kids to have nothing but peak experiences. And so creating an appetite, like a dopamine addiction. So those are ways that it could be poor parenting. But when an ISP has it triggered, it's oftentimes like it can do that. But I've also noticed that it shows up to encourage it encourages trying harder. I've noticed a lot of ISP parents encourage their children to go out for things competitively or to go out for things that they might feel are out of their reach. They really encourage them to try harder and to show, like, really show up. And I think that's one of the best ways that it can parent for others is to be ambitious, basically. Like you said, like have action carry its own authority. Like be authoritative in your life. Go do stuff. Go win competitions. Go enter things. Go be like somebody who has drive or maybe go be entrepreneurial or go be ambitious. Like there's a certain conveyance of the importance of taking action.
Yeah, and that eternal child for an ISP is going to be perspectives or introverted intuition. And for an ISP, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things about this in an ISP, but sometimes it can show up as fretting or paranoia or worry or doubt, or, well, I just need to see it from more perspectives before I take action. I need to make sure I know what's going to happen before I start to act. I need to know how this conversation is going to go, or that person's going to respond to me, or what that job interview is going to be like,
or how it's going to make me feel.
Yeah, or how I'll feel about it, or what I'll think about it. I really need to run these simulations to be safe or to be careful. And your parent comes through and just says, "I'll tell you what, why don't you calm down? Let's take direct action and see what happens. Let's get into action and find our own authority through it. Let's calm you as a small eternal child. I appreciate you trying to guess and speculate what's going to come down the road. Thank you. And let's just get into action. Let's just do this."
Right. Because if the eternal child is just waiting for a moment of inner knowing, it might never know.
Yeah.
Right. It might not ever have that moment of inner knowing because it needed action to know.
Yeah.
Right. And so extroverted sensing or sensation as a parental energy for the self means everything you just mentioned, which is it's that encouragement of, like I mentioned, to actual children, the encouragement of ambition and to go hard, kind of play harder and go further and see what you're capable of and see what you're made of, and you know, go see what happens and be willing to take risks, right, and jump on opportunities, taking all of that and bringing it in-house to the self.
Yeah.
And this idea of, as you just said, if you're waiting for it all to pan out in your imagination, if you're waiting for it to just have the sense of inner knowing or click, like that almost always follows for an ISP experience. Like go experience it. Like your inner knowing will not give you content that it just simply does not have enough information to create a pattern around. So go get that information through experience and give yourself permission to do it. Just like an INP can sometimes see extroverted intuition as dangerous, so can ISPs. They might have had their hand slapped a lot for doing extroverted sensing or sensation activities. They might have been told that they couldn't sit still in school, or they might have been told that, you know, they were precocious or had ADHD, or like the actions they took were not acceptable. Like every time they went and did something, somebody told them they were being too impulsive or they were being too rowdy, or didn't you think that through? So they might start to see their extroverted sensing or sensation as also dangerous or not, you know, not politically correct or not culturally correct or not correct in their family or whatever they associate it with. Like, I'm not allowed to do this. There's a lot of permission issues. But extroverted sensing or sensation, as a parent, parents know when to give their children permission for the next phase, right? They don't withhold. Good, healthy parents do not withhold permission for their children to take actions that are in their own best interest. And that includes not being overly protective. I think when extroverted sensing or sensation is overly protective to the user, it's throttling actions that are in their own best interest.
Yeah.
And so you don't want it to be overly protective. You want it to be in a more preparation way, to build skill, go do things, try it out, enjoy life. Like, feel free to do that. And then also promotional, right? Jump on opportunities, go take risks, go do the things that you need to do in order to have a bigger, more expansive world. And trust that this is parental energy. Trust that this is not going to lead you to being overly indulgent or overly, impulsive. That this is associated with a more responsible energy. And so go do it, right?
Yep.
Like, whatever it is that you want to do, go do that thing and then learn from the mistake. Parents don't always, they try to make the best decisions. They don't always make the best decisions, but if they're smart, they learn from their mistakes and they give themselves permission to learn from their mistakes, because what else are you supposed to do, right? It's not like you can let go of this commitment. So if you make a mistake with it, give yourself permission to have learned from it, right? Be as committed to yourself in this parental way as you would to your own child.
Yeah. I think extrovert sensing and sensation is a fantastic function. I have a new respect for it and love for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what brought it to me is our personality life path mentorship. We actually start with this function because you said, Antonia, what's life about if it's not experiencing the here and now, the moment, right? I mean, we have a lot of other things running. We have abstractions into the future, into the past, but we all start with the eternal now. Like this is actually the only experience we're having right now, like in this moment. And you listening or watching, in the moment you're listening or watching, this is the only experience, whether it's asynchronous or synchronous. This is the actual moment. There is no future or past. They're all just imaginations. This is the present experience we're having. So if you've been listening along this series of self-parenting, we want to hear from you in what's coming up. We asked several questions at the end of the first episode we recorded around this. We asked a question last one about how you would tune to this. I think we'd also ask you this one, where if you're one of these types, either you're an EJ or an IP, and we talked about these 4 perceiving functions, what's your relationship to this in parental energy in your life? Do you see yourself tuning this to other people and giving it outwardly, but not using it for yourself? What does that look like? Come and leave a comment or describe that to us through a story. Or have you found a way to turn it to yourself? And there's aspects of this you're using for your own self-parenting. Come over to personalityhacker.com and directly below this episode, let us know. Let us know what's coming up for you in your personal growth journey as you're attuning to these energies of how you can grow parts of your personality and parts of yourself. I think we'd like to hear that from you. And I think it would really get a good conversation started in our community.
You did a good job.
I did.
Yeah, you hung in there.
I don't think anyone would have noticed.
I don't think so either.
Maybe it would have been noticeable that I'm not feeling the greatest today. I'm a little slower.
You're a little more slow. You're a little more chill. You got like a little bit more of a gentle vibe going on, but I think you hung in there. I was actually, when we started this podcast, I'm like, I don't think he's going to make it through the third one, but you did beautifully.
You doubt my ability to just will energy into my life.
Which I don't know why I do, because you are the one person on the planet that has never failed to will energy, no matter how exhausted you are, no matter how tired you are. I don't think I've ever seen you drop.
It's getting harder as I get older. So I'm worried that someday I'm going to be like, ugh, and I won't be able to do it. I'm like, wow, okay, it hit me. I'm not able to just will this into existence at this point.
I have a feeling you'll just drop dead at that point.
Yeah.
When you no longer can will the energy, it'll just be over.
Fair enough.
But you did a fabulous job. I just want to acknowledge that you've done all 3 of these podcasts while not feeling good, while being sick, and you did an amazing job. So kudos to you. And thank you for sticking with us. I think this is an incredibly important topic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's like crucial. This concept of doing inner parenting work, self-parenting with these functions, I think is so, so vital. This is associated with some other therapeutic work that people are doing. It's kind of similar to like sort of internal family systems and that sort of thing. And I think it's one of those things where it's like all roads lead to Rome. If you're doing the right work, if you're doing really good, solid personal development, personal growth work, it's going to look like a bunch of other work that you're doing, because it's all leading to the right, to the same conclusion, which is honestly helping us heal and honestly helping us get to the next level. So thank you for sticking with this 3-part series on doing inner parenting with your functions and using type to do so. And we super encourage you to see type in this way. We super encourage you to use this not as a theoretical fascination, but as an operation in your life, where something that you can actually, the rubber hits the road and you can employ techniques and strategies through the insights you get from the model to change your life for the better. Yeah. And so we have a program that we've mentioned multiple times.
You're talking about, by the way, true learning equals behavior change.
That's right.
If you actually learn something, it's not just up here in your head. You're actually going to do something different in your life is what you're talking about. You
got it. And so, yes, that's Joel's favorite phrase is true learning equals behavior change, which is, I think, totally accurate. So we have a program that was started a couple years ago now, Personality Life Path. And it has become, it's become one of my favorite programs to do.
It's your life purpose at this point.
Yeah, even more so than Profile. I love Profile training. And Profile training is always a good time. It's an amazing live event. It's great content. But Personality Life Path feels like it's my dharma at this point. It feels like it's so personally rewarding to me. And I think it's because we are doing this deep work. We're talking about using parental energy to move the needle. We're talking about building a good relationship with your inner child. And we're talking about how to create a good relationship with all 8 functions.
Shadow self.
That's right. We go into the shadow functions as well, to do a full life audit and ensure that you are that the work you need to be doing right now, whatever is high leverage, whatever it is that's the sticking point that's keeping you from getting to the next level, whatever it is that's disrupting your ability to like discover whole self and to like really show up in your life. I mean, we are the center point of everything, right? We're the center point of everything and we touch everything in our lives. So if we as an instrument can become better, then everything around us becomes better and we influence it and it influences us. So Personality Life Path is just, it's the program that it's a program that I wish that I could go through myself. But what's nice is that when we facilitate it on some level, I am kind of going through it every single time. Yeah. So go to personalityhacker.com and check to see when the next Personality Life Path program is available, because I think it's a game changer in people's lives. So that's my strong recommendation.
And I think the key here is, as the world is in chaos and upheaval and I'm uncertain about what the future holds. It feels like things change very fast. There's all this trauma and fighting in the political and social realms. It feels like the world's gone crazy some days. What I love about some of the things that we're tuning to, like Personality Life Path and even the owner's manuals for your personality type, is this is something that you bring in-house and you take with you no matter what your circumstances are going to be. Yep. As the systems and the institutions break down around us in a postmodern way, what are we left with but the self as kind of the ballast of the place to come? And you might tune into maybe a strong faith in order to bring that to yourself. You might tune into, other models and methods, but we think that the building blocks of these cognitive functions, the Jungian principles that we talk about around personality types and all of this, is a good ballast to have no matter where you are in the world, no matter what happens. If you have a strong sense of self and how you're wired and how you show up to the world, and you know how to make changes in that system that is you and get a different emergent, and you've actually done it once for yourself, well, now that's a discipline, a practice. It's like learning a martial art. You're going to have that for the rest of your life. Yeah. So I think that starting with an owner's manual, maybe for your personality type, one of the 16 personality types, or a Personality Life Path mentorship, or join another program we have, maybe a membership or something else like that. If you're not ready for some of the bigger high-end things, start making this real. Start bringing it to tangibility. Change your behavior. Change the way you show up in the world. Change how you experience life. Make it better for yourself. Actually do something with this. There's so many levers to pull and so many changes that can be made to change and alter the system that is you. And it really is a matter of just getting to it. And so we'd love, this is my parent energy, isn't it?
Yes.
Here we go. This is my introverted feeling. I'm like giving this like, yeah, you can do it. I believe in you. Take action. You can make this happen. You can live a better life. Clearly, this is stuff that is so pervasive that even as we just did an entire 3-part series on it here, yet I'm tuning into it.
You're doing it right now.
Unconsciously, because it's how I'm wired.
Yep.
So what is that for you? And what's been your experience? Again, come over, make your voice heard, and join one of these programs. Let's get started together.
And of course, if you enjoyed this podcast, there's a ton of different platforms you can subscribe to: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all sorts of different platforms, different Android platforms. And you might be watching us on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this on YouTube, you can subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes. I highly recommend doing that as well. And if you're just a podcast listener, go check out the YouTube video that we do, the blog. You might be pleasantly surprised. Maybe not. Maybe you won't be pleasantly surprised. Maybe be like, I didn't want to know what you people look like. I have an image in my head and I just want to keep it. That's understandable. But if you'd like to, we are on YouTube, so go check out that channel as well. And like I said, head over to personalityhacker.com and check out when the next Personality Life Path program is available. It is a game changer. And I think it might be I think it's the best thing we do. I personally think it is the best thing we do. And I can't recommend it enough. So at least go check it out.
Yeah. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker podcast.